Good morning, this is Mr. Schwanke from Tyburn Academy for our meteorology course, which started new this school year. We normally have a weather briefing at the start of our class, and some days that's interesting, and some days that's kind of boring. Today will be on the boring side, but I anticipate these briefs will last about 10 minutes, and I'm just going to go over the same things we talked about in class for an introductory descriptive meteorology course. And Auburn, New York is an interesting place for weather. Those of you who live here and those people who have been up in the Finger Lakes section of New York, it's beautiful. It's cold in the winter and the summers are beautiful-er, I might even say. Okay, we would normally start out our presentations by looking at the weather map, and we get to the weather maps not through a PowerPoint, but by going to our website that we use. So I got to go onto Google here, and our website is broadneck.org, broadneckhs.org, a reference to my previous high school I worked at in Annapolis, Maryland, Broadneck High School. So let's go to their weather page. This is not individual products that I have made up. This is just a link to weather pages around the country. And let me get this thing focused a little bit better. I'll have these things worked out in the future, but this is the first time to do one of these briefings online. Okay, this is just a page I made up to have reference to lots of different weather sites, mostly National Weather Service things, but also some private forecasters. And we would start out our briefing by looking at the surface analysis. Surface analysis is just a representation of the weather ongoing at the surface, which is just one part of the weather. But on this map, we can see low pressure system off the east coast, fairly intense low with that number of isobars wrapped around it. It's not coming toward us, it's moving out toward the northeast. If that had been a little bit closer, we would have gotten some snow in New York State yesterday from that. They did in the eastern part of the state. We have an old cold front over Florida, which is kind of dissipating, and we have a weak cold front coming in from the Midwest. This is a 10-19 millibar high, not real strong, but there's still some cold temperatures up here. In Canada, -4, 12 degrees here, so, but 27 near the border. That's it, and we got some stuff going on in the southern plains over into the Rocky Mountain section, but this is just a snapshot of the weather for this time was 12Z, which is, Z is a reference to Greenwich Mean Time, and when we're on daylight time, we're 4 hours behind them. So this would be 8 o'clock this morning. All right, so let's look at the surface thing. Doesn't really show us too much. The next thing we would look at in class would be some of the warnings and watches that the National Weather Service has put out. So if we look at this chart, it shows wind warnings offshore from that storm. The red things here are warnings for dryness. They call it a red flag warning, which just means fires, grass fires, and forest fires would be a danger. The brown is high winds. Excuse me. A couple little areas with some snow high up in the mountains, and some interesting snow along the California coast higher up from an incoming Pacific storm. That's kind of a boring weather warnings map. And next thing we might look at would be the upper level maps. I like to go to my site that I do with AccuWeather, and this is a paid site, but it's interesting to look at, and I do pay for it every month. So we log into this site. It just has a really good display of maps. So I'll jump to their maps, and I get to choose. There's different models. Some of you are familiar with the weather models. There's the GFS, the Global Forecast System, which is the American model. America's operational forecast model goes out 16 days for all parameters. There's the European Center for Mid-Range Weather Forecasting, ECMWF, and that was a very good model. It's very competitive and sometimes better than the GFS. And then we have all sorts of models. We've got the UK Met, which is another British model. We've got the Japanese Meteorological Authority, and we've got some other small ones here. But we'll look typically at the GFS model. And what I like to look at this time of year is to come over here. That's temperature map. So you can see there's some pretty cold air up over Canada still. we are sort of on the boundary between this slightly warmer air south of us and cooler up north, but there's no strong gradient of color across here. A slight change from the pink to the blue. There's a scale on here that tells you what those temperatures are. If you go down, oops, make this thing go down. On the bottom of this map, there's a temperature scale. So anyway, I want to go to a multi-parameter map, and I want to have precipitation type and thickness. Well, actually, I think I'll do, yeah, that'll work. Precipitation type, rain versus snow. The blue is snow, the green is rain. If there's ice, it's got a coloration of reds and oranges. And this, I can flip through the future. We're starting with a 6-hour forecast valid this afternoon. And by coming up to the top, I can just make the weather patterns move. So let's just go through this all the way out to the end of the period of time, which will be a ways. So right now we're lows off the coast, high north of us. We got some sunshine here in Auburn right now this morning. We see the high is shifting toward the east. There's some kind of a development with this pattern of precipitation over Ohio and Indiana. And that's moving sort of south of us, but we might be on the northern edge of that. There's a low up over Canada now. Sometimes those are ones that can come down and bother us, but we'll see. And this is now on Friday, tomorrow. Let's keep going here. That low is coming down, but it's not going to bother us. The one that we need to be concerned about is this thing in the Midwest with a secondary part over here. We've got a big comma-shaped swath of precipitation, and it's just about all rain, which is not unusual for the time of year. And we're going to get into the rain, and there we are. We're covered by the green right about now, though it's pretty light green. And that low, like so many have this winter, is going to deepen, going to intensify, but it's going to go up over the Great Lakes to our west, and that puts us on the warm side. You see some ice and freezing rain in eastern parts of New England here, Vermont and New Hampshire, but nothing too terrible, and snow on the north side of it. So rain, it looks like on Sunday, and not clearing out real fast, and that's all we get on that one, because those are the new models. I'd have to go back to an earlier, these are models based upon the 12Z 8 o'clock this morning stuff, and they haven't run them all yet. It takes a long time to run these models. But in order to get the old one, I'd have to initialize it with a earlier one, and I don't want to do that right now because I want this to be relatively short. Okay, let's look at the 500 millibar. The upper level, as my class knows, 500 millibars is roughly 18,000 feet, and that tells us not what's going on directly where we are, but it tells us what's going on above us, and that has a big effect on surface weather. Let's go back to this, and we'll choose upper level charts. Surface upper air heights, how high is that level, and we'll look at the wind speed. And if you look at that, here's Florida way down here. Here's Texas. We're buried under all these colors, but if you look at this, we're covered by an orange coloration of the wind speed, and if we follow that back, that air at upper levels is coming from this big trough over the Pacific Ocean, over California, but it's not coming down from Canada. It's not really particularly cold. We call that zonal flow, straight across. We've had that most of our winter here. The cold air's been locked up over Canada. And there's that upper level low associated with the surface low off the coast. Okay, so we can forecast this a ways a little bit, see how that moves. And the trough, it's called a trough because it's dipped down like this. If we had a ridge, it would be like a mountain. We don't have any ridges on this chart yet. And I guess this is a ridge way down here over the southeast. Very common to have a ridge off the southeast coast, and during the summertime we have that parked in place for weeks sometimes, and it makes a lot of hot air along the east coast. Okay, so it's not a big change for us. We're still in the zonal flow. Still zonal. Now our air is coming a little bit more from the northwest, but not terribly cold. And just the zonal, that trough is trying to get across the country, but it's not doing a very good job. And that indicates that the trough is intensifying, and there would be a surface low intensifying, which we already saw on the surface map. And that's moving up. And we actually just sort of staying the same. Our flow is from the west and southwest at 18,000 feet. And we can move that up until we run out of data, which is going to be shortly. and at the trough weakens when it gets over us, and we're starting to, now we're back. Okay, so there's nothing really exciting going on. Watches, warnings, surface or upper. Let's look at a forecast for Auburn, and then we'll be done for today. So get out of this now. I go to W Underground, and I have a weather station in my backyard here. I'm only about a quarter mile from Tyburn Academy, so it serves as a good reference point for that. Let's link to the weather site and come down here to my little section. A lot of this is based upon Maryland because I used it in my classes at the high school in Maryland, but a lot of this is national stuff. But we have a little thing here called New York State Info, Auburn weather, and I have to come up here to choose our station, Auburn, New York. And this station there's about 5 of these stations in Auburn, and mine is currently offline while I try to figure out a glitch with the server. But anyway, so this guy, 54 degrees right now at about noon, and we have a picture here of today's forecast. I like to do these ones that say hourly because you get more detail. So click up here, and today is going to be partly cloudy, high in 58. That's nice. A little bit of rain late. Tonight some showers, and low 36. No frozen precipitation. Tomorrow cloudy with some sunshine in the afternoon, high 48. So that front is coming through. Tomorrow night down to freezing right here. These are the hourly things, and they're okay, but I prefer just to look at the written ones. Saturday is cloudy again with some rain showers, and Saturday night some rain. It'll be heavier. This is the amount of rain. That's half an inch. That's enough that'll bother you if you're outside. Sunday also kind of shower, thunderstorms likely Sunday, thunder showers, which implies they're not as strong, and then some rain Sunday night, so it's not going to be a dry weekend. And then Monday some more showers. That's the sort of format we do. If there's something exciting going on, we'll examine it more. There is some evidence in the long-range forecasts of a storm off the East Coast. The European model is forecasting it rather intensely, and the GFS doesn't see it at all. And that's a frustrating thing that meteorologists face, is when 2 different models show 2 different things. But we'll see. Thank you for your time and attention, and we don't do this briefing on Friday because the class did not meet on Friday, but we'll start up again on Monday with another brief. Have a good weekend, and take care, and be careful. It's a dangerous world out there.